Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty and watched the stars through the massive viewing window. His hands gripped the metal railing as he waited for the message that would change everything. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations, but the bridge felt unusually quiet today. The communication panel beeped with an incoming transmission. Lieutenant Amy Davis turned from her station and nodded at the captain. "Sir, the Galactic Council is ready to deliver their final decision." Jake took a deep breath. For 3 weeks, Earth's representatives had been fighting in the council chambers. They had argued, pleaded, and negotiated. All for nothing, Jake suspected. The alien races that made up the Galactic Council had already made up their minds before the talks even started. "Put them through," Jake said. The main screen flickered to life. The familiar face of Council Speaker Velthani appeared, her blue skin gleaming under the artificial lights of the council chambers. Her large black eyes showed no emotion as she began to speak. "Captain Morrison, the Galactic Council has reached its final decision regarding the Zephyrian conflict." Her voice was calm and cold. "The human colonies of New Boston, Prairie Home, and Cedar Falls must be surrendered to the Zephyrian Empire immediately. This sacrifice will ensure peace for the galaxy." Jake felt his stomach drop. 3 entire colonies. Over 12 million. Human lives. Men, women, and children who had built new homes on distant worlds, all to be handed over to one of the most brutal alien races in the galaxy. "Speaker Velthani," Jake said, keeping his voice steady, "those colonies are home to 12 million humans. We cannot simply abandon them." The alien's expression did not change. "The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, Captain. 3 colonies for galaxy-wide peace is an acceptable trade." Lieutenant Commander Rick Stone, Jake's second-in-command, stepped forward. His face was red with anger. "Acceptable to who? You're not the ones being sacrificed." Velthani's eyes shifted to Rick. "Humans have always been willing to make sacrifices for the greater good. This is simply another such sacrifice." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. Another sacrifice. How many times had he heard those words over the past 50 years? Ever since humanity had joined the Galactic Council, they had been asked to make sacrifices. When the Heridian Plague threatened to wipe out half the galaxy, human doctors had volunteered to find a cure, and many had died in the process. When the Outer Rim Wars broke out, human soldiers had been sent to fight and die in conflicts that had nothing to do with Earth. When alien economies collapsed, human engineers and economists were sent to fix them. When alien children were dying of diseases, human medical teams rushed to help. When alien worlds faced natural disasters, human relief workers were first on the scene, and now this. The complete surrender of 3 human colonies. "We need time to consider this," Jake said. "There is no time," Velthani replied. "The Zephyrians are mobilizing their fleets as we speak. You have 2 hours to begin the evacuation." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Rick turned to Jake. "Sir, Admiral Parker wants to speak with you immediately. Private channel." Jake nodded and walked to his ready room. He activated the secured communication system, and Admiral Lisa Parker appeared on the small screen. She was sitting in her office on Earth, but Jake could see the weight of the situation in her eyes. "Jake, I assume you got the Council's decision." "Yes. Ma'am, they want us to abandon 3 colonies." Lisa was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke, and her voice was different. Harder. "Jake, I've been in contact with President Davis and the Earth Senate. We've made a decision of our own." Jake waited. "We're done, Jake. We're done being the galaxy's servants. We're done sacrificing our people for aliens who see us as nothing more than tools to be used and thrown away." Jake felt his heart racing. "Ma'am, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that in 1 hour, I'm going to send a message to every human ship, station, and colony in the galaxy. We're coming home, Jake, all of us." Jake stared at the screen. "Admiral, the consequences of such an action will be severe for everyone except us," Lisa finished. "Do you know what I realized yesterday, Jake? In the past 50 years, humans have been involved in every major galactic crisis. Every war, every plague, every economic collapse, every natural Disaster, and every time we've been the ones to fix it. She leaned forward. But here's the thing, Jake. We've been fixing their problems for so long that they've forgotten how to fix problems themselves. They've become completely dependent on us. And they don't even realize it. Jake thought about this. It was true. In every crisis, the call always went out for human help. Human engineers, human doctors, human soldiers, human negotiators. Always humans. The Zephyrians wouldn't dare attack those colonies if they knew we'd fight back, Lisa continued. But the Council is gambling that we'll just roll over and accept their decision. They think we're too nice, too cooperative, too willing to sacrifice ourselves for the so-called greater good. So what's the plan? Lisa smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. We're going to show them what the galaxy looks like without humans. In it, Jake returned to the bridge. The crew looked at him expectantly. These were good people, Jake knew. They had volunteered to serve far from Earth, to represent humanity among the stars. They deserved to know what was coming. Attention all hands, Jake announced over the ship's communication system. This is the captain. In 30 minutes, we will be receiving new orders from Earth Command. I want all department heads to report to the bridge immediately. Within minutes, the bridge was crowded with officers. Jake looked at each face, seeing confusion and concern. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to share some information with you that will not leave this room until Admiral Parker gives the official announcement. Jake paused. The Galactic Council has demanded that we surrender 3 human colonies to the Zephyrian Empire. 12 million people. The reaction was immediate. Voices rose in anger and disbelief. Jake held up his hand for silence. Admiral Parker has made a decision. We are withdrawing from the Galactic Council. All human forces, all human personnel, all human operations in galactic space are being recalled to Earth immediately. Commander Sarah Bell, the ship's chief engineer, spoke up. Sir, what about our allies? What about the trade agreements? The research projects? All terminated, Jake replied. We are cutting all ties with the galactic community. Dr. Alex Chun, the ship's science officer, looked worried. Captain, the implications of such an action are enormous. The galactic economy, the defense networks, the medical research programs, all of them depend heavily on human participation. Jake nodded. That's exactly the point, Doctor. They've taken our cooperation for granted for too long. Now they'll learn what it's like to manage without us? The communication panel beeped again. Lieutenant Davis looked up. Sir, incoming transmission from Admiral Parker. She's broadcasting to the entire galaxy. Put it on the main screen. Admiral Parker appeared, this time in full dress uniform. Behind her, Jake could see the flags of Earth and the United Earth Federation. This is Admiral Lisa Parker of the United Earth Federation. I'm speaking to all human personnel serving in galactic space and to all members of the galactic community. Her voice was calm but firm. Effective immediately, the United Earth Federation is withdrawing from all galactic affairs. All human military forces are ordered to return to Earth space. All trade agreements between Earth and alien worlds are hereby terminated. All diplomatic relations with alien governments are suspended indefinitely. Jake watched as alien faces appeared in small windows around the main screen. The Zephyrian delegate Krikstar was laughing. The crystalline representative Somoth looked confused. Even Velthani seemed unconcerned. Furthermore, Admiral Parker continued, all human civilians working in alien space are advised to return to Earth or human-controlled territory immediately. All human-operated facilities will be shut down and abandoned. Now the alien representatives were looking more serious. The reason for this action is simple, Parker said. For 50 years, humanity has served as the galaxy's problem solvers, peacekeepers, and caretakers. We have given our lives, our resources, and our expertise freely. In return, we have been treated as servants rather than partners. Krikstar stopped laughing. The final insult came today, when the Galactic Council demanded that we sacrifice 3 human colonies to appease Zephyrian aggression. 12 million human lives to be thrown away for the convenience of others. Parker leaned forward and her Next words carried the weight of an entire species' anger. We refuse, not just this demand, but this entire relationship. You wanted to use us, now you'll learn to survive without us. The transmission ended. Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was staring at the blank screen in stunned silence. Well, he said finally, I guess we're going home. Within hours, the greatest exodus in galactic history began. Human ships across the galaxy fired up their quantum drives and disappeared into the dark spaces between stars. Behind them, they left empty stations, abandoned facilities, and a galaxy that was about to learn just how much it had depended on the species it had taken for granted. 3 months had passed since the last human ship disappeared from galactic space. Commander Ryan Torres sat in his small apartment on the mining world of Kepler-7, watching the news feeds with growing concern. He had been one of the few humans who chose to stay behind working as a security consultant for the local government. Now he was beginning to regret that decision. The holographic news display showed scenes of chaos from across the galaxy. Trade ships drifted helplessly in space, their navigation systems failing without human-designed repair protocols. Entire star systems were going dark as power grids collapsed. The carefully balanced network of commerce that had kept thousands of worlds connected was falling apart. Ryan's alien neighbor, a tall insectoid creature named Clicktar, knocked on his door. When Ryan opened it, he could see the panic in the alien's compound eyes. Ryan Torres, you must help us, Clicktar said, his translator making his voice sound desperate. The food shipments from the agricultural worlds have stopped coming. The children are already getting hungry. Ryan shook his head sadly. I told your government this would happen. The logistics network that moved food between star systems was designed and maintained by humans. Without them, the whole system breaks down. But surely you can fix it. You are human. I'm a security guard, Clicktar. I don't know anything about interstellar shipping networks. The humans who knew how to run those systems are all back on Earth now. Clicktar's antennae drooped. Then what will we do? Ryan didn't have an answer. On the other side of the galaxy, Director Paul Kennedy's former assistant, an alien called Vex-9, stared at the massive computer screens in the mercantile Union Central Control Room. Numbers flashed red across every display. Trade volume was down 70%. Supply chains that had functioned smoothly for decades were completely broken. Vex-9 had worked alongside Paul for 5 years, watching him manage the complex systems that kept goods flowing between member worlds. Paul had made it look easy, solving problems with quick decisions and creative solutions. Now, with Paul gone, Vex-9 realized he had never actually understood how any of it worked. The other alien officials in the room were arguing loudly. They blamed each other for the crisis, but Vex-9 knew the truth. They had all become lazy, letting the humans do the real work while they took credit for the successes. We need to contact the humans, Vex-9 said, interrupting the argument. We need to ask them to come back. The room fell silent. Director Kolvas, the union's leader, turned his massive head toward Vex-9. The humans abandoned us. They chose to leave. We will solve this ourselves. How? Vex-9 asked. Do you know how to recalibrate the quantum routing protocols? Do you understand the economic modeling systems that predict supply needs? Can you reprogram the automated trading algorithms? Kolvas said nothing. None of them could. Far away on the research station Nova Prime, alien scientists struggled with equipment they barely understood. Dr. Kate Sullivan and her team had operated the station's most advanced laboratories for over a decade. The alien researchers had worked alongside them, contributing ideas and observations, but they had never learned to actually run the complex systems themselves. The crystalline researcher Silmuth stood before a quantum analysis machine that had been offline for 2 weeks. The device was worth more than most planets, capable of analyzing matter at the subatomic level. But without Kate and her team, it was just an expensive piece of metal. Have you tried the standard restart procedure? Asked Mortal Agassius, being whose form shifted constantly inside his containment suit. I have tried everything in the manual, Silmuth replied, his crystal body changing from blue to deep purple in frustration. But the manual was written by humans for humans. Half of the technical terms don't translate properly into our languages. The truth was becoming clear to all of them. The humans hadn't just worked on the station, they had been the station. Every major breakthrough, every successful experiment, every technical innovation had come from human minds. Working with human hands on human-designed equipment, the other alien species had contributed. Yes, but they had been assistants rather than partners. They had provided ideas while the humans did the actual work of making those ideas reality. In the medical sector, the crisis was even worse. Dr. Ben Garcia had led the galaxy's most successful disease research team working out of the medical station sanctuary. His departure had left a gap that no one could fill, the Healers Collective. The galaxy's premier medical organization was facing its worst crisis in centuries. A new plague had broken out in the Outer Rim systems, and they had no idea how to stop it. Healer Zeth Prime, the collective's leader, floated in his biotank and reviewed the medical data. The disease was spreading faster than anything they had encountered before. It affected multiple species differently, making it nearly impossible to develop a universal treatment. This is exactly the type of challenge that Dr. Garcia specialized in, Zeth Prime said to his assistants. He developed 17 different treatments for cross-species diseases. 17 cures that saved billions of lives. Can we not use his research methods? Asked Healer Yik Secondary. We have his published papers, but they are incomplete. The real knowledge was in his mind, in his experience, in his intuitive understanding of biological systems. We were so busy learning from his results that we never learned his methods. The plague continued to spread. On the political front, things were just as bad. President Helen Davis had been Earth's primary representative to the Galactic Council for 8 years. She had negotiated treaties, resolved disputes, and prevented 3 major wars through careful diplomacy. With her gone, the Council was falling apart. Species that had been allies for decades were now arguing over trade routes and territorial boundaries. Without human mediators to find compromise solutions, every disagreement became a potential conflict. Supreme Counselor Thex Vara called an emergency session to address the growing crisis. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered in the Great Council chamber, but the mood was very different from just a few months earlier. We must acknowledge the reality of our situation, Thex Vara announced. The departure of the humans has created significant challenges for our civilizations. Significant challenges? Interrupted Ambassador Crickstar of the Zephyrian Empire. My empire has conquered 4 new systems since the humans left, but we cannot maintain supply lines to support our armies. Our war machine is grinding to a halt because we don't know how to manage the logistics networks the humans built for us. A murmur ran through the chamber. Even the aggressive Zephyrians were struggling. The technological collective has lost 60% of its research capability, added Nexus 7, speaking for the galaxy's most advanced AI network. Our most sophisticated projects have stalled because they depended on human innovation and problem-solving abilities. Representative Velthani, who had delivered the ultimatum that triggered humanity's exodus, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Perhaps we should consider reaching out to the humans. Offer them better terms for their return. And what would we offer them? Asked Ambassador Cordain of the Peaceful Worlds Alliance. They were already members of the Council. They already had full trading rights. They already participated in all our programs. What more could we give them? The chamber fell silent. They all knew the answer, but none wanted to say it out loud. They would have to offer humanity something they had never been willing to give. Before Respect. Back on Kepler 7, Ryan Torres received a communication from the local government. The message was simple but desperate. Please help us contact Earth. We are willing to negotiate new terms. Ryan looked at the message for a long time. Similar requests were coming in from across the galaxy. Every day, more alien governments were swallowing their pride and asking for human help, but Earth wasn't answering. The quantum communication networks that connected the galaxy to human space had gone silent. It was as if humanity had simply vanished into the dark spaces between stars. Ryan understood why. For 50 years, humanity had answered every call for help, had solved every crisis, had sacrificed their own interests for the greater good of galactic civilization. They had been taken for granted, treated as servants rather than partners. Now, the galaxy was learning what it was like to face its problems alone. The food shortages were getting worse. The plague was spreading unchecked. Trade networks remained broken, research stations sat idle. Military conflicts erupted without human peacekeepers to prevent them, and still, Earth remained silent. Ryan Torres looked out his window at the night sky, wondering where humanity had gone and whether they would ever choose to return. The galaxy had wanted to use them as tools. Now, they were discovering just how helpless they were without those tools. The question was whether they would learn the right lesson from this crisis, or whether their pride would doom them all to a slow decline into chaos and barbarism. Only time would tell. 2 years had passed since humanity vanished from galactic space. The great cities that had once bustled with trade and culture now stood half-empty. Entire sectors of the galaxy had gone dark, their communication networks failing one by one. What had started as a crisis had become a complete collapse of civilization. Senator Carl Wright sat in his small office on the abandoned human embassy station, orbiting the former council world of Centauri Prime. He was one of only a dozen humans who had chosen to remain behind when Earth recalled its people. As humanity's former liaison to the Galactic Council, Carl had tried to warn them this would happen. Now his recorded messages played on every remaining news channel across the galaxy. "You never learn to do these things yourselves," his voice echoed from speakers throughout the dying station. "You just assumed we'd always be there to handle your problems." Carl had said those words during his final speech to the Council, just hours before the human exodus began. At the time, the alien representatives had laughed at him. They weren't laughing anymore. The station's artificial gravity flickered again. Without human technicians to maintain the complex systems, even basic life support was becoming unreliable. Carl made his way to the observation deck and looked out at Centauri Prime below. The planet's surface was dotted with dark spots. Where major cities had lost power permanently, a communication request came through on his personal device. Carl accepted it, and the holographic image of Nexus 7 appeared before him. The ancient AI's form had changed over the past 2 years, becoming more fragmented and unstable as its support systems failed. "Senator Wright, I require your assistance with an urgent matter," Nexus 7 said, its voice glitching with static. "I'm not a senator anymore, Nexus. Earth withdrew from all galactic institutions, remember? Nevertheless, you are human. That makes you more qualified than anyone else remaining in this sector," the AIS image flickered. "I have reached a disturbing conclusion about our current situation." Carl waited. Humans were not simply participants in galactic civilization. They were its foundation. Every major infrastructure project of the last century, every successful military campaign, every economic boom period, every technological breakthrough, all had significant human involvement. "I tried to tell the Council that," Carl said. "The data is undeniable. When I analyze the correlation between human presence and civilizational success, the pattern is clear. Sectors with higher human populations showed greater technological advancement, economic stability, and social cohesion. Areas where humans were rare or absent remained primitive or stagnant." Carl nodded sadly. "What's your point, Nexus?" "My point is that we are witnessing the collapse of a civilization that was never truly independent. We became dependent on human innovation, human problem-solving, human leadership. Without them, we are reverting to our pre-contact state of development." In the Outer Rim territories, Captain Nina Foster piloted her independent ship, Defiance, through the debris field that had once been the Arcturus trading hub. Nina had been a merchant captain before humanity's departure, running cargo between human and alien worlds. Now she operated in the shadows, monitoring alien communications and salvaging what she could from the wreckage of galactic commerce. Her ship's sensors picked up a weak distress signal from a drifting alien vessel. Nina recognized the ship design as belonging to the Ethereal Dominion, one of the galaxy's most advanced and proud species. The Ethereals had always looked down on younger races like humanity, considering themselves superior in every way. Nina docked with the disabled ship and made her way to the bridge. What she found there shocked her. The ethereal captain, Quinvast, was huddled in a corner, his normally glowing form dim and flickering. "Please," Quinvast whispered when he saw Nina. "My ship's life support is failing, my crew is dying." "Do you have medical supplies?" Nina looked around the bridge. Advanced alien technology surrounded them, but none of it was working properly. "What happened to your medical bay?" "The healing chambers require quantum stabilizers that we cannot manufacture. The human company that produced them is no longer responding to our requests." Nina shook her head. The Ethereals had some of the most sophisticated medical technology in the galaxy, but they had never learned to maintain it themselves. They had relied on human contractors for their complex technical work. "I have basic medical supplies," Nina said, "but nothing that will work with your equipment." Quinvast's form brightened slightly with hope. "Perhaps you could repair our systems? Humans are skilled with technology. I'm a cargo pilot, not an engineer. The humans who knew how to fix your equipment are all back on Earth now." The Ethereal's light dimmed again. "Then we are lost." Nina did what she could for the dying crew, but it wasn't enough. As she prepared to leave, Quinvast grabbed her arm with a grip that felt like touching starlight. "Please tell your people that we were wrong. Tell them we understand now. We need them." Nina's next stop was the former research station Trinity 9, where she had agreed to meet with Dr. Ellen Wright, a human xenoarchaeologist who had also chosen to remain in galactic space. Ellen had been investigating ancient ruins on the rim worlds, searching for clues about humanity's true origins. They met in the station's abandoned cafeteria, sharing rations while Ellen explained her discoveries. "Nina, what I found changes everything. These ruins aren't just old, they're impossibly old. And the technology I'm uncovering makes our current quantum drives look like stone tools." Ellen activated a small device that projected holographic images of the ancient structures. The architectural patterns, the mathematical principles, even the basic design philosophy, it's all unmistakably human. But these ruins predate human civilization by millions of years. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that humanity might not be the young species everyone thinks we are. These ruins suggest that an advanced human civilization existed long before we developed spaceflight. Before we even developed agriculture, possibly." Nina stared at the images. "That's impossible, is it? Think about it. Humans adapt to any environment. We solve problems that other species can't even understand. We innovate constantly. We have an intuitive grasp of technology that seems almost supernatural to other races." Ellen leaned forward. "What if we're not newcomers to the galaxy? What if we're the return of something much older?" Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the human Exodus fleets had found sanctuary in a region of the galaxy that most species considered empty and worthless. The area was filled with dark matter anomalies and quantum storms that made navigation extremely difficult for conventional ships. But human vessels, with their advanced quantum drives, could navigate the region safely. Admiral Lisa Parker stood on the bridge of the command ship New Earth, watching as construction crews assembled massive orbital habitats around a system of dead worlds. The human fleet had grown larger than anyone back in galactic space realized. Ships that had been reported as lost in deep space were actually part of humanity's secret expansion. "Admiral, we're receiving another batch of messages from alien governments," reported Communications Officer Dave Miller. "They're all asking for help with the plague that's spreading through the rim sectors." Lisa looked at the message count. "Over 3,000 requests for assistance in the past month alone. Are any of them offering anything more than empty promises?" "This time? No, ma'am. They all follow the same pattern. Apologies for past treatment, promises of better relations, requests for immediate assistance. But no concrete offers of compensation or changes to the power structure." Lisa nodded grimly. The alien species still didn't understand. They thought this was just a negotiation, that humanity would eventually come back because they always had. Before, they hadn't grasped that humanity's departure was permanent unless fundamental changes were made. Any word from our deep space reconnaissance teams? Yes, ma'am. Captain Tom Hayes reports that his team has successfully activated another ancient facility. The technology they're finding is incredible. Energy systems that dwarf our best reactors, manufacturing capabilities that could build a fleet in days rather than years. Lisa smiled. While the galaxy crumbled, humanity was growing stronger. They were uncovering their true heritage and building something new. Something better. Dr. Ben Garcia, who had once led the galaxy's disease research efforts, now worked in a state-of-the-art medical facility hidden in the human refuges. His new laboratories were equipped with technology that made his old equipment look primitive. The ancient human ruins had yielded medical knowledge that was revolutionary. We could cure the plague that's killing them, Ben said to his research team. With what we've learned from the ancient databases, we could probably cure every disease that's ever affected any species in the galaxy. But we won't, replied Dr. Kate Sullivan, who had joined Ben's team after the Exodus. Not until they prove they've learned their lesson. Ben nodded sadly. How many more have to die before they understand that we're not their servants? The question haunted him. But he knew that humanity's return on the same terms as before would only lead to the same pattern of exploitation. The galaxy needed to learn to value human contributions. Not just expect them. As the third year of humanity's absence began, the collapse accelerated. Entire species were going extinct. 5 years had passed since humanity disappeared from galactic civilization. The Great Plague that had started in the Outer Rim had now spread to the core worlds. Entire species were facing extinction. The Zephyrian Empire, once the galaxy's most feared military power, had collapsed into civil war as their supply chains completely broke down. Trade between star systems had dropped to almost nothing. Fleet. Admiral Gary Stone stood in the command center of the hidden human base called Haven 7, deep in the dark matter nebula that humanity now called home. Banks of monitors showed intelligence reports from across the galaxy. What he saw on those screens made him angry and worried at the same time. Sir, we have confirmation, reported Intelligence Officer Mark Thompson. The Galactic Council has authorized the formation of the largest military fleet in galactic history. Over 500 species are contributing ships. Gary studied the tactical displays. Massive fleets were gathering at staging points throughout the galaxy. Desperate alien governments were pooling their remaining resources for one final gamble. What's their objective? To find us, sir, and force us to return. Gary shook his head. Even facing complete collapse, the alien species still didn't understand. They thought this was about power, about forcing humanity to submit. They couldn't grasp that humanity had left by choice and would only return on their own terms. How long before they're ready to begin their search? Intelligence estimates 6 months for full deployment. But Admiral, some of the advanced scout fleets are already operating. They're following quantum trail signatures, checking every system that might hide a large human population. Gary activated the communication system that connected all human refuges. All station commanders, this is Admiral Stone. Implement Security Protocol 7 immediately. We are officially being hunted. Across the hidden human territories, defense systems came online. Stealth fields activated around orbital stations. Long-range sensors began monitoring for alien intrusion. Humanity had spent 5 years building their new civilization in secret. They wouldn't give it up without a fight. On the former council world of Centauri Prime, Supreme Counselor Lex Vara addressed the emergency assembly. The Great Council Chamber, once filled with representatives from thousands of worlds, now held only a few dozen survivors from the strongest remaining governments. Fellow beings, Lex Vara began, her voice echoing in the mostly empty chamber. We face the greatest crisis in galactic history. Our civilizations are dying. Our people are suffering. Our very survival depends on the return of the humans. Ambassador Velthani, who had delivered the ultimatum that started this crisis, stood to speak. She looked much older now, her blue skin faded and marked with stress lines. The humans must be found and compelled to return. We cannot allow their selfish abandonment of their responsibilities to continue. They have a duty to help us. From the back of the chamber, a weak voice called out. It was Quinvast of the Ethereal Dominion, one of the few survivors of his dying species. With respect, Ambassador, perhaps we should consider that the humans left because we gave them no choice. Velthani turned toward him angrily. They left because they could not handle the difficult decisions required for galactic leadership. When asked to make a necessary sacrifice, they chose to run away. They left because we treated them as servants, Quinvast replied. Because we demanded their sacrifices while offering nothing in return. Because we took their help for granted and never showed them proper respect. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some representatives agreed with Quinvast, others supported Velthani, but Thexvara silenced them all with a gesture. It does not matter why they left. What matters is that they must return. Our fleets will find them, and when they do, we will make them understand their obligations to galactic civilization. Far from the council chambers, Dr. Amy Clark worked in a research laboratory that existed beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The ancient technology that humanity had discovered in the Dark Nebula was changing everything they thought they knew about science, about history, about themselves. Amy stood before a massive crystalline structure that hummed with energy beyond current understanding. The device was clearly built by humans, but humans from millions of years in the past. The mathematics involved were so advanced that even Amy, one of Earth's top scientists, could barely comprehend them. The genetic samples don't lie, she said to her research partner, Dr. Steve Clark. The humans who built this technology were identical to modern humans. Not evolved from us, not ancestors of us, they were us. Steve looked at the data on his screen, but that's impossible. Human civilization only began 10,000 years ago. We have complete archaeological records. Do we, or do we have records of when we started over? Amy activated a holographic display that showed the timeline. They had pieced together from the ancient ruins. What if modern human civilization isn't our first attempt? What if we've done this before? The implications were staggering. The ruins suggested that ancient humans had built a galactic civilization that lasted for millions of years. They had seeded countless worlds with life, guided the development of younger species, and created technologies that seemed like magic even to their own descendants. If this is true, Steve said slowly, then the current alien species aren't just dependent on us for help. They exist because of us. We created them, Amy nodded grimly. And now they're trying to hunt down their own creators because we won't serve them anymore. Meanwhile, Captain Steve Barnes led a reconnaissance mission in the deep void, gathering intelligence on the alien search fleets. His ship, the Wanderer, was equipped with the latest human stealth technology and could observe enemy movements without being detected. What Steve saw during his mission confirmed humanity's worst fears. The alien fleets were massive, containing ships from species that had been enemies for centuries. Desperation had forced them to work together, but their cooperation was fragile and inefficient. Captain, we're detecting quantum signature analysis. Equipment on those ships, reported sensor operator Julie Martinez. They're trying to track our drive emissions. Steve studied the alien formations. How effective is their technology? Not very. Without human engineers to calibrate the systems properly, they're working with maybe 20% efficiency. But there are so many ships that even poor efficiency might eventually find us. Steve made his decision. Signal the fleet. We're returning to base immediately. Admiral Stone needs to see this. Back at Haven 7, Steve's report confirmed what the leadership had already suspected. The alien hunt was serious, well-funded, and determined, but it was also desperate and poorly organized. They have the numbers, Admiral Stone told the gathered commanders, but they lack the expertise to use those numbers effectively. Their logistics are a mess, their coordination is terrible, and their equipment keeps breaking down because they don't know how to maintain it properly. General Rick Davis, humanity's top military strategist, reviewed the tactical data. They're making the same mistake they always made. They're trying to solve their problems with brute force instead of intelligence. They think if they just search hard enough, they'll find us. The question is, said President Helen Davis, who had arrived from Earth for this emergency meeting, what do we do when they get close? Do we run deeper into the void, or do we make a stand? Admiral Stone looked at the ancient technologies surrounding them. Humanity had weapons now that could destroy entire fleets with minimal effort. They had defensive systems that could hide entire star systems from detection. They had capabilities that bordered on the supernatural. We have a third option, Stone said. We could end this hunt permanently. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. You're talking about revealing ourselves, President Davis said. I'm talking about showing them who they're really hunting. These alien species think they're chasing down runaway servants. They have no idea they're hunting the descendants of the beings who created galactic civilization in the first place. Dr. Amy Clark activated her portable research display. The ancient records are clear. Humanity didn't just participate in the galaxy's development, we guided it. We planted the seeds that grew into every major civilization currently in existence. Then perhaps, said Admiral Stone, it's time for the children to meet their parents. The decision was made. After 5 years of hiding, humanity would reveal itself to the galaxy. But not as the desperate species the aliens expected to find. They would return as what they had always been, the inheritors of a legacy that stretched back millions of years. The hunt was about to become something very different. The prey was about to become the predator, and the galaxy was about to learn the true nature of the species it had taken for granted for so long. In the deep void, human fleets began moving toward the approaching alien armadas. The greatest confrontation in galactic history was about to begin. 7 years had passed since humanity left galactic civilization. Now the largest alien fleet in galactic history emerged from quantum space at the edge of the Kepler Nebula. Over 10,000 ships from hundreds of desperate species had come together for one final hunt. They believed they were close to finding humanity's hiding place. General Rick Davis stood on the bridge of the Retribution, humanity's new flagship. The ship was unlike anything that had existed before, built using ancient technologies that made it seem more like a living thing than a machine. Around him, his crew prepared for the confrontation that would determine the future of the galaxy. General, the alien fleet has entered our sensor range, reported Communications Officer Dave Miller. They're using every scanning method they have, but our stealth systems are holding, Rick nodded. The alien ships were impressive in number, but he could see their flaws even from this distance. Mismatched technologies, poor coordination, ships that were barely holding together. 7 years of decline had taken their toll on even the strongest alien civilizations. Any word from their leadership? Yes, sir. Supreme Counselor Thexvar is broadcasting on all frequencies, demanding our surrender. She's threatening total destruction if we don't return to serve the galaxy immediately. Rick almost smiled. After 7 years of watching galactic civilization collapse without human help, they were still making demands. They still believed they had the right to command humanity. Open a channel to all human vessels. It's time to show them who they're really dealing with. Across the hidden human territories, ships began moving. But these weren't the vessels the aliens remembered. Humanity had spent 7 years rebuilding their civilization using ancient technologies that their own ancestors had created millions of years ago. The ships that emerged from the nebula looked like they were made of liquid starlight, their hulls shifting and flowing as quantum fields protected them. Ambassador Lisa Grant, chosen to speak for humanity in this moment, stood in the communication chamber of the Retribution. Behind her, holographic displays showed the ancient ruins that had revealed humanity's true history. She activated the transmission that would reach every ship in the alien fleet. This is Ambassador Lisa Grant of the Human Federation. You come seeking the servants you remember. You will find the inheritors you forgot. On the bridge of the alien flagship Destiny, Supreme Counselor Thexvara stared at the transmission in confusion. Inheritors, what does she mean? Around her, alien officers pointed at their sensor readings with growing alarm. The human ships that were appearing from the nebula defied everything they knew about technology. They moved without visible engines, their weapons charged with energy signatures that made no scientific sense. Their shields seemed to bend space itself. "Counselor," whispered the Zephyrian commander Crickstar, "those ships, they're not using any technology we recognize," Lisa's transmission continued. 7 years ago, you demanded that we sacrifice our people for your convenience. When we refused, you dismissed us as ungrateful children who didn't understand their place in the galaxy. You were wrong about our place. You were wrong about everything. The holographic display behind Lisa shifted to show images from the ancient ruins. Crystalline cities that stretched across continents. Massive space stations that dwarfed anything the current galaxy had ever built. Ships that could cross between galaxies in moments. This is what you never knew. Humanity didn't join Galactic civilization, we created it. Millions of years ago, our ancestors seeded this galaxy with life. They guided the development of every species you consider ancient and wise. They built the foundations that your civilizations grew from. Shocked, silence filled the alien command centers. The evidence was undeniable. The architectural patterns in the ruins matched human preferences perfectly. The mathematical principles were based on human logic systems. The basic design philosophy behind every major piece of galactic infrastructure showed clear human influence. Dr. Ellen Wright, now serving as humanity's chief historian, took over the broadcast. Your species exists because ancient humans helped them evolve. Your technologies are based on principles that humans discovered. Your governments use systems that humans designed. For millions of years, humanity was the galaxy's gardener, helping younger species grow and develop. Admiral Chris Murphy, commanding the human battle fleet, moved his ships into formation around the alien armada. The human vessels took positions that made it clear they could destroy every alien ship in minutes if they chose to. Then you forgot? Lisa continued. Over time, you forgot who had helped you become what you were. You began to see yourselves as the natural leaders of the galaxy. When modern humans rediscovered space travel, you treated us as newcomers who should serve you. You made us into your problem solvers, your peacekeepers, your servants. On the alien ships, panic was spreading. Their weapon systems were powering up automatically, as if the human ships were somehow taking control of their own technology. Warning lights flashed as critical systems began reporting impossible readings. "But we are not your servants," Lisa said, her voice carrying the authority of millions of years of heritage. "We are your creators, and we are tired of being treated as anything less." Commander Velthani, who had delivered the ultimatum 7 years ago, finally found her voice. This is impossible. You're just trying to trick us with false claims about your past." The human ships responded by demonstrating their capabilities. Energy beams lanced out, not to destroy, but to disable. Every weapon system in the alien fleet suddenly went offline. Their shields collapsed, their engines stopped working. In seconds, 10,000 ships became helpless metal drifting in space. President Joe Martinez, humanity's current leader, joined the transmission. "We could have destroyed you all. We could have wiped out every alien civilization in the galaxy anytime we wanted. But we didn't because despite everything, we still care about the species our ancestors helped create." The alien fleet sat powerless, their crews staring at readings they couldn't understand. The humans had disabled their entire armada without firing a single destructive shot. "However," President Martinez continued, "we will not return to the old relationship. We will not serve you. We will not sacrifice our people for your convenience. We will not solve your problems while you take credit for the solutions." Supreme Counselor Thexvara, her pride finally broken, spoke into her communication system. "What What do you want from us? Respect, Lisa answered simply. Recognition of what we are and what we've contributed. Partnership instead of servitude. Equality instead of exploitation. Dr. Amy Clark activated the final part of humanity's revelation. The ancient databases that humanity had recovered contained the complete genetic and cultural histories of every species in the galaxy. Detailed records of how each civilization had been guided and nurtured by humanity's ancestors. We're sharing with you the true history of galactic civilization, Amy announced. Your own histories, as recorded by the humans who helped shape your development. Learn who you really are, learn where you came from, and learn to show proper respect to those who made your existence possible. The data transfer began, flooding alien computer systems with information that revealed the truth about their origins. Every species in the galaxy discovered that their most sacred legends, their foundational myths, their greatest cultural achievements all had human fingerprints on them. Commander Ryan Torres, who had stayed behind on Kepler 7 all those years ago, received the transmission in his small apartment. He smiled as he watched his former alien neighbors finally understanding the truth. Clicktar, his insectoid neighbor, knocked on his door with tears streaming down his compound eyes. Ryan Torres, we were so wrong, so very wrong. Can you ever forgive us? Ryan put a gentle hand on his friend's shoulder. That's not up to me anymore, Clicktar. That's up to humanity as a whole. The confrontation in the Kepler Nebula ended not with violence but with recognition. The alien fleets, their weapons disabled but their crews unharmed, finally understood what they were really facing. Admiral Murphy gave them their ships back, but the message was clear. Humanity held all the cards now. They had the technology, the knowledge, and the power to either help the galaxy rebuild or watch it collapse completely. President Martinez made the final offer. We will return to help you rebuild your civilizations. We will share our knowledge and our resources. We will work together to create something better than what existed before. But it will be as partners, not as servants. As equals, not as tools, to be used and discarded. The alien leaders had no choice but to accept. Their people were dying, their worlds were falling apart, and they had just learned that humanity was the foundation upon which their entire existence was built. As the human ships began escorting the alien fleet back towards civilized space, Dr. Ellen Wright made one final observation. The galaxy's children tried to enslave their own parents. Now the family is reunited and the real work of building a mature galactic civilization can finally begin. 7 years of separation had taught both sides valuable lessons. The aliens had learned humility and the true value of human contributions. Humanity had learned their own worth and refused to accept anything less than proper respect.